Welcome into Cougar Tracks here on the KSL Sports YouTube and KSL NewsRadio, your legacy home of the Cougars. I am your BYU insider, Mitch Harper. It's Wednesday, February 4th, National Signing Day for BYU football, and this episode's coming out a little bit later because we had so much great stuff in the media today with head coach Kalani Sitake, the offensive coordinator Aaron Roderick, defensive coordinator Kelly Papinga, Sione Puha, Justin Enna, special teams coordinator, Demario Warren, Lewis Walker. So much to unpack, so many thoughts on this signing day, which didn't involve any new signings, but it's a mile marker in the offseason for BYU football. We'll also get to some BYU basketball as well as the Cougars are getting ready to tip off against the Oklahoma State Cowboys in Stillwater. But we start things off with BYU football on signing day.
The top story of the day. The biggest story in the world of BYU sports right here on Cougar Tracks.
National Signing Day. The Cougs have a top 25 recruiting class. And I've said before, I wish that signing day would go to this day only, plus players that want to sign, they can sign whenever. So have this kind of be the final, round it all up, gather all the signatures, and celebrate it on this day if you want to have an official day. But to me, I want to see the direction where when athletes are ready going into their senior year or maybe their junior year, officially sign then and get that done whenever they want. I don't know how you work out the dates or the terms, but to me, that's the direction I want to see it go, especially with no longer national letter of intent's not a thing. They just sign their financial aid agreement, their scholarship agreement, whatever that looks like, with RevShare, and just go about your day and agree to those terms and sign on the dotted line and make it official, and then these coaches can talk about these players. I also hope that one day we see coaches are able to officially speak on players or dispel any conversation about players that maybe they did or didn't reach out to in terms of the recruiting trail, what happened in certain situations there. I hope we get to that point because this whole can't talk about anyone until they sign, that kind of gets a little bit old to me, especially with the day and age that we're in with college sports, and many of these athletes are making a lot of money, and coaches were able to talk about Ryder Lyons officially because if you go back to December when the coaches spoke to the media, Ryder had not officially been signed on the dotted line yet. The 4-star quarterback out of Folsom, California, big-time player. He's in Mexico right now at the Missionary Training Center getting ready to serve a Spanish-speaking mission in Orlando, Florida. Ryder, his expected timeline is 2027. I asked Aaron Roderick about his thoughts on Ryder Lyons and the potential timeline, and Coach Roderick just said they want him to focus on his mission first, and when he gets to BYU, the cream will rise to the top, whatever that means. And that's always been Kalani Sitake's program, that competition's always going to happen, but Ryder Lyons is a big-time talent, and it was good to hear from the coaches, get their thoughts officially about someone like him. And Lyons is an incredible talent. I think he's a 5-star, even though the recruiting services knocked him down to a 4-star. Big-time player, huge arm talent, and I think he's got a little bit of that dog mentality too. He's gritty. He looks like the pretty boy, the TikTok guy, but he's got a lot of dog in him too. There's something to like about Ryder Lyons. BYU is in a great spot with the quarterback position. You think about this. They've got Bear Bachmeier. They've got Ryder Lyons. They've got Enoch Watson. They got Emerson Geilman in the pipeline as well. BYU is in good hands at the quarterback spot for now, and I think the years to come at that position, which is the most important position in the program. Today was also a day where the coaches could talk officially about the transfer portal class, because in terms of timeline, since the Pop-Tarts Bowl, it's been a whirlwind of activity where the media haven't had much time to really talk with the coaches officially because, well, they've been out on the recruiting trail. They've been dealing with the transfer portal. They've been on the phone. Even Aaron Roderick talked about how he felt a little bit like Jerry Maguire retaining his team. Show me the money. That's the name of the game, man. Retaining, talking to agents, nailing down these rosters, getting it all set up. That's how this thing goes these days in college football. But we had a chance to hear from the coaches about some of the transfers, and BYU officially, they've announced these guys piece by piece when they were rolling through during transfer portal season, but kind of the first formal time for the coaches to talk to the media about them. And again, the recap on those players: Kedu Luave, linebacker from Cal, probably going to be an inside linebacker would be the projection for him, which is interesting because BYU has primarily shifted to an odd front, and you could see a lot of 4 linebackers for this BYU team easily. So Sialia Sarah, Kedu Luave, you got an Isaiah Glasker, Nusi Taumai-Peau, Ace Kafusi in that second unit. You got so many options at linebacker. I mean, if you got an even front, 3 linebackers, whatever it is, so much optionality at the linebacker position. Uluave, though, put it in Sharpie. This guy's going to step right in and be an instant impact guy. Cannot wait to see him. Jake Clifton, linebacker, Kansas State, another, I think, impact potential guy for this BYU linebacking unit. And now he's working his way back from a mission. He's got 2 years of eligibility remaining, but highly productive football player from K-State. Paki Finau, offensive lineman from Washington. We've talked about him a lot since he signed. I am bullish on Paki Finau. Could play tackle, could play guard. He could play anything. And we've heard about him for so many years for BYU in terms of recruiting, but they couldn't get him initially. They get him the second go-round. I think he's going to be huge. And credit to TJ Woods and this offensive staff for getting these offensive linemen, because I think what TJ Woods is building is quietly really impressive. I mean, 2 years ago, first team all Big 12 performer in Caleb Etienne. I look at Isaiah Jada. If he's fully healthy, I think he could be an NFL draft pick potentially, maybe a 7th round guy late in the draft. Maybe we'll see on Jada. I think that they've done a really good job with the offensive line TJ Woods has. Bruce Mitchell was a first-team All-Big 12 guy. And then you add Paki Finau, you add Zach Yamauchi, and you add Junior Sia. It's a good offensive line that's got maybe 9-10 guys that you could say could be a starter for those 5 spots next season. BYU's in a really good place there. Kyler Casper, wide receiver from Oregon, 6'6", and even Aaron Roderick, when I asked about Casper, acknowledged, kind of a projection-based addition. And you could see that. I mean, lack of production, really. It's been non-existent at the collegiate level in the 4 years he's been at Oregon due to injuries. But the size, the athleticism, the talent, it's all there. The connections, they've also been pursuing his younger brother who's in the high school ranks. Be great to build up a little bit of a family pipeline. But projection-based player, Aaron Roderick noted, they like his potential, though. And if they can keep him healthy, and they did a deep dive on the medical side for Kyler Casper, and that's key these days more than ever before. It's not just simply adding a guy to add someone, because spots are so limited, and everyone that gets a spot on this roster is making money. And you're not just going to dish out any spot to just anyone. So you got to do your homework. You got to do your research, and Casper steps in, and I'm really intrigued to see what he can do. I mean, it's a total incomplete to say right now, oh, he's just going to be a superstar. That's premature. But if he could be wide receiver too, man, that would be big time for BYU and really reshape the outlook of the wide receiver unit that's already pretty good already, but he could take it into another gear if he hits and has success for BYU. Walker Lyons from USC, Roger Saliapaga from Oregon. BYU could have both these guys on the field at the same time. I still think Kean Need as a blocker is really interesting. I think Noah Moiaki is not one to just completely discredit in all of this. I think Noah Moiaki factors into the conversation too. But Walker Lyons, I think, is tight end 1. And then everything else is kind of up for grabs after that. I think Roger Saliapaga, though, is interesting. Kind of incomplete, too, like Casper. Not injury-related. Just hasn't played much. Oregon had a pretty deep tight end unit. So I'm really curious to see how that develops. But what's been promising for BYU is that their tight end position is really building up the pipeline. You know, Brock Harris will come in 2027. Ty Getch from Colorado. You know, big-time tight ends. You know, that's what BYU's been lacking in recent years, really since Aaron Roderick took over the program at offensive coordinator spot. They haven't had big-time tight end prospects signing with BYU. You know, back in the day, there used to be, I mean, even Isaac Rex, he wasn't the biggest recruit, but, you know, he was a 3-star prospect. Just getting 4-star guys, 5-star, you know, guys that have 5-star ceilings, 4-star talents when they arrive and getting them to a 5-star talent in college. You know, BYU's had a long history of that at tight end. And look, there's guys like Dennis Pitta that were complete off the beaten path recruits, not even rated, and they become absolute studs. Dennis Pitta is the best tight end ever. But I think that BYU and the history at the position and the pipeline of LDS players typically being good at tight end. Again, I've talked about it before, you know, tight end, quarterback, linebacker, those 3 positions, there's always good LDS athletes at those spots. And of course, O-line and D-line too. So tight end's a spot where there's no excuse BYU should not be really good. And I think they're building that up, and getting Lyons and Saliapaga is a great step in that direction for BYU. Javen Williams, cornerback from Mississippi State. DeMario Warren touched on him a little bit earlier today. I think he's going to be a depth guy, but I think he steps in as he's the 3rd cornerback. And that's an important spot too, because, you know, we'll see how Lewis Walker and DeMario Warren's going to handle the passing game coordinator spot with the defense and the safeties. Lewis Walker, how he kind of divvies up reps to the cornerbacks, but you've got 2 stars in Trey Alexander and Evan Johnson. Evan Johnson, maybe the best cornerback, one of the best in the Big 12. He's an all Big 12 guy. But Javen Williams should step in and be cornerback 3. And then I think cornerback 4, you know, maybe a Jordan Chris, maybe a Cannon DeVries. We'll see how that all shakes out for BYU. But I think, again, it rounds into form the whole depth and the picture and the outlook of that cornerback position. And if you do have a rolled ankle or something along those lines, you'd like to think Javen Williams can step in and contribute at a high level with his collegiate experience and step in and perform well. You're not going to expect him to be Evan Johnson or Trey Alexander, but if those guys get nicked up, you still got someone that you can trust. But again, I think those youngsters too that are developing and got those bowl practices can be really good for BYU in the future as well. Zach Yamauchi, Junior Sia, talked about them earlier. I think Junior Sia could be a contender at starter. I mean, same with Yamauchi. The battle at offensive line should be a lot of fun for BYU. Also announced today, which is unique to BYU for the most part. There's some programs that obviously sign LDS players and get missionaries back, but one of the big buckets in constructing a roster for the Cougars is return missionaries. BYU formally announced the winter semester RMs that are going to be part of spring football, and those players include Owen Borg, a linebacker. We've talked about him before. He arrived in fall camp last year, didn't go through camp, but gray-shirted last fall semester. So he's been around, had some time to kind of get acclimated, get his feet underneath him. I think that's sometimes big. If they show up in late December, early January, maybe it's a little bit harder timeline-wise to reasonably expect an impact that first season. He's had a full semester to kind of ramp up and get ready for winter conditioning and then ultimately spring ball. But Owen Borg, I loved him at Corner Canyon. I think he's a classic BYU linebacker in the inside. Going to be developmental. You're not looking at impact in 2026, but someone to keep an eye on down the road if he stays part of the program long term. Matthew Frederick from East High School, tight end. You know, someone that's, again, developmental. We'll see what he can become as far as that position for BYU. I laid out so many big names in that position group. Where does someone like him fit into this conversation? We'll see. He's an intriguing athlete, though, and there's a good mold of clay to work with a Matthew Frederick, so he's one to watch. Blake Lowe. I'm really intrigued by Blake Lowe at linebacker. I always like, linebackers in general that signed with BYU. Blake Lowe, he's someone that I think could be an intriguing player. He's out of Temecula, California, played some safety. He's going to move up into the box for BYU. Had kind of, Mountain West, Pac-12, some low-end P4 offers. But, Blake Lowe could be, someone to watch down the road. BYU's done an excellent job with retaining personnel. And when you get to year 3 with a guy, then they can start to really take off. And that 3-star could be someone that emerges as something pretty special. You think about the all Big 12 guys that BYU had this past year. Bruce Mitchell was like a 2-star recruit. Evan Johnson was a no-star recruit. But if you stay part of the program, there's a clear path in terms of Kalani's program will develop you. They will stay invested into you. They're not just going to kick you to the curb. It's going to be more competitive for spots to where, if you can upgrade, you can't turn that down. But for the most part, BYU, if they're invested in you and you arrive on campus, they're going to give you the time to get an opportunity to succeed. Now, they're going to want you to show signs and flashes that you're going to make an impact, because you don't want to have that conversation where it becomes, hey, you know what? This is kind of the outlook. You might want to hit the portal. And those conversations happen for sure. But at the same time, there is also, if you can show those signs and you develop and you stay the course, you can become a really good football player regardless of what your star rating is. Now, the guys that are a little bit higher star rating, I think the process gets accelerated a bit and you expect more from them initially. But guys that are, under the radar, 3-star players, they can develop and take their time. And BYU's kind of built up a nice resume of guys like that. And that helps build out the depth for this BYU football program. Jet Nilsson, wide receiver. He joined the program last fall, went through bowl practices. Same with Enoch Watson, quarterback. Aaron Roderick noted that Enoch Watson had 6 bowl practices leading up to the Pop-Tarts Bowl. We talked about that before on Cougar Tracks. But Enoch Watson, I think that we don't sleep on him as possibly the second quarterback, maybe. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, if he shows up in spring ball and plays at a high level, make him the backup. Like, don't be afraid to do that. I mean, they started as a true freshman last year. I don't think there's any fear to put a true freshman as the backup QB, and quite frankly, I'm okay with it. Trayson Bourguet, I would assume, would probably be the number 2 right now, but Enoch Watson should get every opportunity to compete and be that number 2 for BYU. Tui Pututau. Interesting little nugget here. He originally signed as a defensive lineman, now offensive line for Pututau. Great football family, the Pututaus. Typically, you see that name attached to the University of Utah. BYU gets Tui Pututau, and he'll play probably an interior offensive line spot, I would imagine. But he'll be an intriguing piece to develop in that offensive line unit as well. Adney Reed is one to watch. Defensive end, kind of put him in that Nusi Taumoi Peau conversation. Sam linebacker. I think he will be a guy that we talk about that could be the impact guy, maybe. And there's so many in that defensive end edge rusher spot that Chad Kahaha is going to inherit with that position group. But Adney Reed could be one to watch that could be pretty impactful, I think, maybe even this year. We could hear his name in 2026, but I think he's going to be a good one for the Cougars. David Tungalanu, defensive tackle. You always need big bodies in the interior. I think that's a good depth piece for BYU in the interior. And like I said, Enoch Watson as well. So that's the returning missionaries. You still got some other guys like a Devo Tuataga who will be joining the program in spring. There's some other return missionaries as well. But that's the guys that are in the winter semester. And we talked about it before in terms of RMs having an impact. You typically look at the winter semester ones having the best chance to make a dent in the 2 deep potentially and play on the field if they're returning back from a mission with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But an eventful day for BYU football, and really a mile marker that says football is around the corner, because after this, then it's spring ball. Then we'll probably have an alumni game, I would imagine, in March, something along those lines. And then, May, we got spring. I mean, there's so much before we know it. I always play this game in my head, but, football's just around the corner. I always tell myself that when I stack it up the way that I do in my head. Got spring ball, got the alumni game, got the NCAA basketball tournament, got all these different things. We'll have the Big 12 media days. We'll have the college football video game. And then, by the way, it's fall camp. Official visitors, recruiting season, camps, commitments. Again, football season will be here before we know it. It's just around the corner. About 7 months away until BYU versus Utah Tech on September 5th. 7 months from tomorrow. Let's see, we're about, 213 days away until BYU kicks off the season. It's not that far off. Cannot wait. You can listen to all of the action, of course, right here on KSL News Radio. We'll have you covered once again here on KSLSports.com. Let's take a break. On the other side, going to have some BYU basketball talk. I had the chance to catch up with some BYU basketball signees. We'll hit on that next here on Cougar Tracks. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. So yesterday I had the chance to go to Timpview basketball versus Orem High basketball. Really good game. Timpview, one of the best teams, not only in the state, they are probably the best team in the state, but one of the best teams in the country, Timpview High School, and they're led by a pair of BYU basketball signees. They were playing in their penultimate home game as seniors at Timpview High, and I had the chance to catch up with the signees, Dean Rueckert and Will Openshaw, yesterday. And I wanted to play those interviews today here on Cougar Tracks, and here's my first conversation with BYU signee Dean Rueckert here on Cougar Tracks. Here now with BYU signee Dean Rueckert, who's heading into the stretch run of a senior season here at Timpview High. Is it kind of surreal? Think that you're kind of heading down to the final stretch of games here in your high school career?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's gone by so fast. Everyone always says it was going to go by fast, but you don't believe it until it happens. So it's crazy to be here.
What's been the most rewarding part so far in this senior season? I'm sure there's some high aspirations to finish the job and goals and trophies and titles that you guys want to claim, but so far, what's been maybe the most rewarding aspect of this senior year?
I think the most rewarding asset is just being here with my team, and I'm glad I didn't transfer anywhere else and go anywhere else in the state, because I'm glad I'm here with my guys, and that's really the most important thing to me, is that I'm here with my guys and we're going to go make a run at state and win a championship. And
that was, that's a good point, because some guys would go to a lot of senior year, maybe prep school, whatever it may be. Why was that a point of emphasis for you to do it, hometown, be here at the home school?
It was just important to me to finish it out with my best friends on my team, and really, because we didn't win state my first 3 years, we have to get it done this last year, and that's just really important to me, just being connected with my friends, because these are memories and things that I'll remember the rest of my life.
What have been areas on the court in your senior year that you've really tried to elevate your game as you get ready for college basketball around the corner? It'll be sooner rather than later that comes up. You probably want to be grounded in the moment right now, but what have been areas that you wanted to improve in this senior season in high school?
Some of the biggest things are just defense and rebounding. Going into games, just kind of focusing on defense and rebounding, everything else will come along with it. And I think I've improved on both those parts of my game, and so it's been fun to just focus on that.
Do you kind of pick things from watching BYU at all and think, or get pointers I don't even know if you can talk to the coaches or not, but just things to kind of almost get you as ready as possible for when college basketball and you enroll, to be as ready as you can to kind of hit the ground running at BYU?
Yeah, for sure. I think I'll take some stuff from BYU, just watching them and kind of watching where I'll fit next year, and just working on that kind of stuff. And it's a little different just with the offense here in BYU.
Sure.
But for sure, I'll look at Richie Saunders and just kind of work on some of the same stuff that he's really good at. So that's kind of my mindset looking at that.
How fun has it been to watch this BYU team? Every year in college basketball will be different, and there'll be different guys next year. But just each year, last season with Yegor, this year with AJ and Richie, just your thoughts on the way this coaching staff can really develop personnel and this the style of play that they put out on the floor.
It's really impressive. It's been so fun to watch this year because, obviously they have a great team, but or great players on their team, but they're figuring out how to play together good, and just kind of watching Kevin Young kind of put together the offense, put together the defense, kind of put all those great players into their roles. It's cool to see that. It's cool to see that because we haven't had that at BYU in a long time.
How involved, and I bring this up with you brought up Richie Saunders. Do you kind of reach out to him at all for any pointers, because he's in his final season? Pick his brain at all, or anyone in this current program at BYU to kind of pick their brain and learn things?
I haven't, but I should. I've reached out to some of the coaches at BYU. I haven't talked to Richie at all since the season started or anything, but I should. That's a good idea.
I'm curious, Dean, how rewarding is it to you to start to get more, I think, national recognition? Yesterday, Rivals, you're one of the biggest risers, up 100 spots. I don't know if that's something that you're chasing, but to actually get more national respect for what you've been putting out on the court, how rewarding is that? And just maybe motivation does it serve for you to keep getting better?
I mean, yeah, it's nice. I always try to look at it rankings don't really matter because all the rankings are bogus. But it's nice to get some kind of recognition, and it's they're seeing improvements of my game. But that's cool to see.
How talking with Coach Kitchen about you and Will. What would you say about Will, where he's improved in his game? Because it seems like just watching from afar, he's evolved a lot. He had that great dunk against Layton Christian Academy. Where's some of the areas do you think Will's improved in his game?
Will's improved every part of his game. I feel like he's gotten so much better, and that's just a testament to him working and really wanting to get better at a lot of aspects of his game. And I think a big one is shooting. He's been able to shoot the ball really well this year, and that's been a huge jump for him.
And the last thing for you, Dean, again, appreciate this time to check in. Just how excited are you to be at BYU, and just the goals and aspirations you have when you join the program in April, correct? Mm-hmm. Just goals that you have when you arrive at campus and be at BYU.
I think I'm really excited. First of all, I'm really excited. It's going to be super hard, but my goal is just to work as hard as I can and kind of put my head down in the work. Obviously still have fun, have fun doing it, but it's going to be hard. So I'm going to put my head down and work as hard as I ever have, and just kind of work my way up, and come in as a freshman, but don't act like a freshman,
And that's BYU basketball signee Dean Rueckert. Appreciate Dean for taking the time to chat with me yesterday before his game against Orem. Timpview did win in that game. I also caught up with Will Openshaw, 6'10" player. He's had an impressive senior season, and his days are only getting better as a basketball player. Here's my chat with Will Openshaw. Checking in with BYU basketball signees here on BYU basketball is got a heralded recruiting class once again for the 2026 cycle, and joining me, Timpview Center forward Will Openshaw. And Will, since you signed and committed to BYU, where do you feel like you've grown the most as a basketball player during the senior year at Timpview?
I think lots of things have gotten better. I think learning how to be a leader better. I'm not perfect or great at it, and I'm still working really hard. But I think I've come a long way from where I was. Like I said, I'm not the best yet. I have a long way to go for sure. But I think just finding ways to push myself in practice and to be an example, good example on and off the court. I'm not always perfect, but I try my best. So.
How rewarding is the feeling when you have like a highlight dunk like you did against Leighton Christian last month? Just big plays like that. How fulfilling and rewarding are those moments to almost highlight the growth that you are making each and every day?
Yeah, it's rewarding for sure. I mean, to see your progress and and everything that you worked for really just like pay off is it's rewarding just like anything else, like lifting weights and seeing muscles. Obviously, I don't have a ton of those yet, but I mean, yeah, it's nice to see it for sure. So, yeah.
I'm curious, Will, looking at I think you were at the BYU Utah game, I believe, or a couple weeks ago at the Marriott Center. Been at some BYU games. Your thoughts on just what goes to your mind when you watch BYU basketball, and when you think, man, I'm going to be part of that. You know, when the time comes. Just your thoughts when you watch Kevin Young's program operate in games this year.
It's exciting. It's super exciting. I think the community here, especially, they love their basketball. They love BYU, and to be a part of that and someone that they're supporting and stuff, it makes me want to put on. Especially it's my hometown, so it really makes me. It really is that driving, like another driving factor to work hard and be successful. And I'm just grateful for the opportunity that I have, because I know I'm extremely blessed. So.
Has being a BYU signee been maybe almost like a bullseye for you in games? I mean, your team already, Timpview, you guys are nationally ranked, one of the top teams in the country, so that naturally is going to bring a lot of attention and teams wanting to play their best. But when players go one-on-one or with you with matchups, they're trying to bring their best going up against the BYU guys. That tried to level you up in games, knowing that you got to bring it every single night, knowing that you're a BYU signee and what that comes with.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of maybe edge to the other side from having that label or that name or whatever, and it's fun, it's cool. I wouldn't want it any other way. It's definitely exciting for a game to know, okay, this dude's probably they're probably coming after me. I've seen it a couple times for sure. But, I mean, we have a lot of threats on the team. I want to give a shout-out to my guy Lincoln Holcomb and Jackson Palmer. They're both great. I think they're a little overlooked. They hustle. They do the dirty work. And without my teammates, I wouldn't be half the player I am. So.
And as this season progresses and your basketball career continues to progress, what are areas you want to continue to improve each and every day?
I think on the court, I've really gotten better at I haven't shown it a ton. But my mid-range shooting, compared to especially a couple years ago, I think I've grown it a lot. I'm not perfect by any means, but I think that's something I've really developed, and it helps open other things up, like the three or even stuff closer to the basket. Just gives me more things to go to, moves to go to, and more opportunities to score. And
what again is your timeline for when you plan to enroll at BYU? Because I believe you're planning on serving a mission. Is that correct first?
Yeah, so I plan on serving a mission for my church, and I'll leave either when school gets out or more towards the summer. But I plan on I think it's 2028, I believe. Come back for spring. I'll do that summer training with them and get ready to go for Cougs.
Any hopes of a spot you'd want to serve a mission in, country or anywhere in the States?
That's a good question. I think there would be lots of cool places. I don't know. I'm not the best language learner. I've tried a couple. I think I could do it for sure, but it'd definitely take a lot of practice. I don't know. I think stateside would be cool, somewhere in like the South. I've been there a couple times. I think it's super cool out there. Stateside would be cool, but really just anywhere to go meet new people and stuff would be fun.
No question. And I'm curious, going back to the core last few moments here, I want to get your thoughts on, from your perspective, where has Dean improved the most in his game this year, you think, from his teammate?
That's a good question. He's always been a really good shooter, but he's been phenomenal, and he's like, I mean, you guys have seen it, like that he's deadly. I think he's really good. He's a really good teammate, and I think that because, like you said about that target on your back or whatever, I think he even more so has one, and I think the way he handles it is really special, and it's a good example for me. I haven't always been super. I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm super good, but I haven't always been the guy that people look at a ton. So, like earning that spotlight and coming into it, I think he's been a good example of how to deal with it, and that's what I mean. I really appreciate him, even just as a friend. I mean, hang out. We practice and stuff on the basketball court, but we're hanging out all the time off the court, and so I think he's a really good person. I look up to him in that way, but yeah, I think he's gotten really good at honestly everything, defense, shooting, like you name it. I think he's improved. He's always in the gym working, so props to him.
And that's Will Openshaw. Appreciate Will for joining me on the program. Again, that's my check-in with some BYU basketball signees here on Cougar Tracks. Final timeout. We'll preview BYU Oklahoma State next here on Cougar Tracks. Welcome back into Cougar Tracks here on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports YouTube page. We'll make this one quick, as a little bit longer episode today. BYU basketball, 16th ranked Cougars taking on the Oklahoma State Cowboys in Stillwater at Gallagher-Iba Arena. Oklahoma State basketball, man, I can't figure them out. Steve Lutz, I think, is building that thing up. The head coach for the Pokes, second year with the program. I think he's going to do some great things there. But Oklahoma State, such a good basketball tradition, and it's just kind of fallen off. I think this is one of the sleepier road venues in the Big 12, if maybe the only one really on the road venues. Now, granted, BYU, though, is going to get everyone's best shot because you beat BYU with an A.J. DiBonsa and Richie Saunders and Rob Wright. This is a feel-good type game if you can win it and take down BYU, and you're going to get in the headlines, and it's the type of win that you could say, hey, we've turned it around as a program. But I think back to the days of Oklahoma State, 2004 in the Delta Center. You know, that was a great game. Oklahoma State and BYU, Rafael Araujo. Daniel Bobick was getting booed relentlessly, and I think it was talked about in general conference by a general authority. I remember that. I was there in that building. Oklahoma State is nowhere near that. Hopefully, Steve Lutz can build it back up to where Oklahoma State basketball means a lot again, because it just seems like a distant memory since the Eddie Sutton days. Gallagher-Iba Arena rocking on like a noon tip on FSN, Fox Sports Network back in the day on the Big 12. Anyway, that's a little bit of history there. 2 years ago, BYU rolled into Stillwater and got thumped by a bad Oklahoma State team. I remember Jamyron Keller. Jamyron Keller went off. He went off on BYU last year with 15 points. I think 2 of his 3 highest scoring games ever in his career were against BYU, Jamyron Keller. Now he's at Louisiana. He's not on Oklahoma State anymore. But BYU and the Pokes tonight, 7 p.m. tip, FS1 and KSL News Radio. Pregame begins at 6 on KSL News Radio. I think BYU wins this game. Let's give you my score prediction for this contest.
Score prediction. Will BYU come out on top? It's time for Mitch's score prediction for the next game.
Yeah, I've got the Cougs winning this game. Oklahoma State's good offensively. They get up and down the floor. They haven't been as efficient in Big 12 play. That's to be expected. They were really good in non-conference. I think BYU wins this game. 96-89 is going to be my score prediction for the Cougars. I think this is going to be high scoring. Up and down. These two teams are going to get up and down the floor. I think that, Kevin Young is going to want to see, this game, this BYU team play tough defensively. Will 89 points make him scream a little bit? Maybe. But still, ultimately, offensively, you want the big three to operate at a high level there. That's where they got to be at their best. If you got to sacrifice a little bit on the defensive end, so be it. Offensively, I want to see AJ. I want to see Richie. I want to see Rob operate at a high level. This is a game where they should score 75 points. And you probably need it night after night with those three. And an impactful 75, maybe 80 is needed here because you just can't count on many people outside of those three. Cade is going to get you 7 to 8. Kennard Davis, we'll see what happens there. Does Hadim Boop quickly check into the game, or does he start in this one? So we'll see. This is KY on Oklahoma State.
Fast. They get out in transition better than anybody in our league. They're just, I think Steve's teams, based on my couple, now going on two years with him, it feels like they're really they make the game hard on you. They're physical. They get into you. They're denying some passes. They're crawling into the ball. An area where we, early on, I think in Big 12 play, that was like the Kansas State game as an example. We had a bunch of turnovers because I think it caught our guys off guard. TCU, I thought we handled it better. So it's this physical nature of their defense and then their ability to get out in transition. And they have some high-level shot makers. They got some guys that can really, score the basketball really from three. And so we got to do a good job with, just having our defense more intact than it has been.
4 guys for Oklahoma State averaging double figures, led by Anthony Roy, who's at 17.5. Kanye Clary, leader in assists, 4.8. Again, it's a good team. Oklahoma State's solid. They've had some moments where they've had some big game opportunities at home, haven't delivered. They haven't played the best either against maybe the elite teams in the Big 12. You point to, they lost by 22 to open Big 12 play at Texas Tech. They lost by 12 against Iowa State. They lost to Iowa State by 13, and they were down 30 at half in Stillwater. Oklahoma State was hammering those guys, and they lost to Iowa State again, as I said, in Ames, 83 to 71. So they've struggled. They've lost by double figures against the top end, the upper crust of the Big 12. BYU, even though they're 7th place right now in the Big 12, I'd still say in terms of talent and, of course, their national ranking, this is a team that's in the upper crust. So the expectation would be you win this game by double figures. Now, it's the Big 12. It's a road game. I don't know if, 10 points is the expectation here. You just want to win. You want to play well. You want to jump off to a strong start here, because I will say this too. I think this is a game that really could define the season. It's so big because this game tonight, if you lose it, I don't want to say panic meter because panic button, but you start to really reassess where this team goes. Then it feels like any game could be a potential loss. Now you win this, you go back home feeling good with Houston. All the feel goods are coming back, and maybe you could, go 2-0 and everything's back to order for this BYU team. But you lose this one, I think starts some doubt about what the ceiling of this team could be, gets brought into question. And that's why this game tonight, playing at a high level, winning this game first off, that's the most important thing. But winning and playing at a high level on the offensive end, and defensively, you want to see improvement there too. But BYU's big three got to be the big three. They got to show up, and they got to be elite in this game, and I think they will, and I think the Cougs have a big offensive output, 96 points in my prediction. They win by 7, 96 to 89. So I got the Cougs getting back on track and winning this game against Oklahoma State. It wouldn't surprise me if BYU got up by like 15, 17 points, and then maybe Oklahoma State makes a late run, kind of does the BYU thing, and makes the score a little bit closer. I think BYU gets a sound victory and gets this thing back on track tonight. Because, again, I'm not hitting that panic button on this BYU team. It's a really good team. Like, I still feel confident when you got A.J. DePonsa, when you got Richie Saunders, when you got Rob Wright. Give me those three in an NCAA tournament. I've seen BYU go into NCAA tournament games where you go, you know what? All this stuff that we thought worked in the Mountain West, it don't work in this setup because you don't have shot makers. You don't have guys that can create. BYU has guys that can create, and that's big in March. I think the thing is that right now, this team just has some struggles with slow starts and that they got to get some chemistry going together. And everyone outside the top three has got to provide something when they hit the floor. That hasn't been consistently happening enough. So we'll see how it plays out tonight. BYU and Oklahoma State tip off at 7. That's going to do it for this edition of Cougar Tracks. We'll be back tomorrow with more Cougar Tracks here on KSL Sports and the KSL Sports YouTube page.